Hello, my name's Scott from Alcohol and Anime Night, and tonight we are going to check out a figure that I am super excited about. It is the TransArt BWM13 Predacon Quickstrike, aka the Vice Poison Rattler. Either way, it is the Beast Wars Fuzor's Quickstrike done in TransArt fashion. Let's check it out. Just like last time, Shozi Store once again knocked out of the park with the packaging. They've got a plastic wrap around it for moisture control and then corner protectors to really make sure that it's protected from any drop. The box artwork is pretty cool. It has, of course, Quickstrike in both of his modes, some line art of Transmetal Megatron and the Transmetal Tarantulas, which I've heard really good things about. I don't know if I'll pick it up, but I really like this TransArt Beast Wars Transmetals line. For those of you who may be wondering why this guy looks so bizarre and haven't seen Beast Wars,
Shame.
let me give you the TLDR version. So in Beast Wars, the bots come to the planet in their stasis pods, and when they arrive, the pods scan local wildlife and sometimes just their bones to give them an alt mode that protects them from the energon on the planet. In this case, the pods are damaged after the results of the end of the first season, and the scanners kind of go haywire, and they actually scan two different life forms, in this case a scorpion and a cobra, and then combine them in a fusion, thus the word Fuzors. And Silverbolt is combined in this same fashion in the same episode, which is Season 2, Episode 2. You should check it out. Quickstrike was voiced on the show by the great Colin Murdoch, and it's kind of an Old West prospector voice that I find myself slipping into from time to time, and Quickstrike has an understandable crush on Miss Black Arachnia, which I think I find endearing. I had the original $8 figure from back in the day, and it wasn't too big, I remember. It was not on the high end of figures by any means. I think it was well under $10 at the time. But when I was going through some tough times, I actually sold all my Beast Wars figures, apart from a couple I couldn't find maybe, and I really regretted it because that was maybe one of my favorites. Even though it was one of the cheapest, it was one of my favorites. Perhaps that's why I feel like I can rebuy all these things again for insane prices. The transformation is actually very similar to the original, where it rotates around with the legs and tail, and then the head kind of stays in between. So if you had the original figure, this is going to be very similar. So there's some fiddly bits with the shoulders here, which turns out to make it look great, and it's perfectly really show accurate. And these shoulder bits end up also coming around and rotating around and eventually filling in gaps on the bottom and sides of the beast mode as well to really hide some stuff. So it's really nice, and there's some additional ones in here, but these rotating hinges here these rotating hinges right here, they are quite thin. Now, I didn't run into any issues. I'm always quite careful with these things, but don't ham-hand this. I feel like if there's going to be a breaking point, it's going to be on those little hinges, and there's actually like 3 of them in there. And so just take your time, be careful, and you shouldn't run into any issues. But once it's done, it looks great. Everything is perfectly, and it feels good in hand. It doesn't feel like it's going to shake apart, and it actually feels good in hand. Now, it's got this nice smooth plastic. Unlike Black Arachnia, which she's not actually that fun to handle. That sounds super creepy, but she's very spiky, and because she's so dainty in that feminine form, you really, there's 2 parts. She's very spiky, so as you go to move her and pose her, it literally hurts you, which I feel like is on brand for her character. However, because she's so dainty, you really kind of gotta almost just use the tips of your fingers to kind of move her. This guy, you can kind of move him around, and he feels more like a toy, and it feels like you'd really play with him. It feels like if you gave him to a young kid, they wouldn't immediately break it. So that's really good, and I like that a lot right off. Good initial first impression. One thing I must note though, during the initial transformation, literally within like the first 4 seconds of me transforming it, his head popped off. I suspect that was just me being a little ham-handed, but yeah, it did happen. I popped it right back on, no problems yet, so just something to watch out for. Just like on the Black Arachnia figure, you do get the Magmotion card that has the instructions as well as a stats card. That's kind of cool. The Magmotion instructions do help, but honestly, I really didn't need it that much. They were just kind of used to figure out where those shoulder joints kind of rotated into. That was the only real part that I needed help with. And I will note at the end of the transformation where the hand bits plug in, there actually is a little spot for them to plug into, and if you're not careful, you'll actually miss that. But if it doesn't plug in, it really doesn't affect anything too much. It's just you can miss where it plugs into and at the last step. I love the metallic paint and the pearlescent paint, but was the original one transmetal? And it looks like it was like a translucent plastic, which I don't totally remember. And there was a shiny blue, but I wouldn't say metallic. I like the metallic on this one. I like the pearlescent. I'm really glad they didn't do the translucent here. That would have probably made it more fragile, and I don't know if I would have liked the look as much. The character animation model definitely was shiny. So that they got right, and so I'm glad they did that, because that is definitely on the original animation model. He was more shiny, and that's cool. So I dig this version a lot. Because of his huge feet, this guy stands like a champ with no need for a stand, unlike some sexy spiders I know. And you can put him in crazy poses, and he'll just stay there. You can get him into all sorts of acrobatics. So again, play factor, that's great. I really like that. The head in the beast mode actually is articulated, which again makes it really expressive to make it pose for a lot of really fun scenes. The snake head is a little small for my liking in beast mode, but I think that's actually because, from my perspective, the beast head in the original toy was probably too big in bot mode. So I'm kind of skewing that a little bit, and I think that actually has something to do with the fact that it had a water squirting gimmick. So all things said, yes, I think it might be a little bit small in beast mode, but it means that it's better in scale in bot mode. So I think it's a fair compromise. It's just, if I had any complaints, it would be the scale is slightly off that. I love the size of him. I think it looks great. MP scale, I feel like it justifies the cost just right. However, when I scale him with Black Arachnia, now that I really think about it, I really think that she's too small. I believe now that looking at him, he's the right scale, and she should have been scaled up a little bit, which might have solved some of the kind of dainty issues with the joints and made it feel a little bit more hefty. So if anything, this figure actually pointed out some flaws in that Black Arachnia figure, which I still like very much, but I believe this guy is a better value. And if you're a fan of the show, you're almost certainly a fan of this character. He's hilarious, he's fun. This character brings a lot of personality to your shelf, so I would say pick this guy up. You got to do the silly voice whenever you play with them, and pick this guy up at Show Z. He's a very reasonable price. I just got mine from the pre-order. I don't think it's sold out or anything. So yeah, if you're a fan of Beast Wars, especially Season 2 and the Fuzors, you're not going to find a better version of this, because online eBays of the original figure are out of control, and honestly, this one's way better than you're going to get for an eBay of the original one new. I've been Scott from Alcohol and Anime Night. Kanpai.